If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know that I've been documenting the history of the Fast and Furious cars for years. This has been no easy task, given that for every car you see in the movie, there are several copies of that car that serve as backup cars or stunt cars. Most of you already know this. I've done my best to keep track of all the cars, but because so many years have passed and some cars have been passed around like a bong at a party, some have been elusive to find or track. One car's destiny had been a complete mystery until just recently. Which car am I talking about? I'll give you a hint. It was in the first movie and it appeared in the race wars scene. It was this car, the HKS liveried RX-7, which was owned by a young aspiring actor by the name of Chris Chi. Over the years, I've tried to get Chris's side of the story, but I wasn't having much luck finding him. Then recently, I was made aware of a 20-year-old post on the RX-7 Club forum. Here's the actual post. Well, ladies and gents in Southern California, my car got jacked yesterday, February 15, 2002. I have insurance, but I know they're going to fight all the car parts that I have on the car. Please keep on the lookout for RX-7 parts for sale. I've already called everyone I know that has shady connections to find their ass. Gonna get real hard for them to move parts in Los Angeles. According to the OP, Rotary Knight, which was Chris Chi's pseudonym on the forum back then, his RX-7 was stolen near the Warner Brothers lot between 2:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. on February 15, 2002. I decided to turn to social media to try and connect with Chris Chi one more time. I finally got a hold of him, and after a short phone call, I got the full skinny. He confirmed that the car was stolen on Friday, February 15, 2002, which happened to be a holiday weekend, and the car was recovered on Tuesday, February 18th in Inglewood, California. Chris was working at Warner Brothers that day, and since the parking structure wasn't yet built and the designated gated lot was full, he had to park on the street, and he had really serious reservations about that. He then went into work on one of the sound stages, and when he came out, the car was gone. It was stolen. Despite having 3 alarms and an anti-carjacking hidden switch, the car seemed to be too low to tow with any type of tow truck without damaging the car. So the speculation at the time was that someone had a second key or they had hotwired the car and so forth. But so much for 3 alarms, right? As Chris puts it, the thieves were amateurs and were clearly not into the JDM scene, as evidenced by the fact that they didn't take off some of the really expensive car parts like the suspension. They kept that on the car. Although the car looked pretty stockish in the movie though, he went on to build the car into an impressive parts showpiece in the months that followed the movie. You have to understand the history of the car. Although the car looked pretty stockish in the movie, he went on to build that car into an impressive parts showpiece in the months that followed the movie. Chris notes that although he also appeared in Race Wars as one of the motorcycle gang guys, he was really only focused on trying to get his car in the movie. That was his main goal. Now, all of this was heartbreaking because while the car was on set, it made many runs as we filmed The Race with Letty, which was done over multiple takes over multiple days. And after a few days of abuse during filming, the car was returned to him with a bad idle and smoke coming out of the exhaust. The engine was toast, it turns out. Chris got an estimate from a Mazda dealer for a new engine and submitted it to Universal, who happily compensated him fairly, as Chris says. It was then that he embarked on that comprehensive build I just mentioned. When the car was done, the car's equipment list was very impressive. It had a real Knight sports hood, it had their Type 4 bumper, their Type 1 sides, dual flap of aluminum wing, and side view mirrors, all from Knight Sports. Performance-wise, it had an XS Engineering spec TO4S turbo, an HKS Type S intercooler, an EVC4, an Apex Power FC, an HKS twin power setup, an AIC3 with elbow, and an underdrive pulley kit. If you don't know, that list of performance parts is a journey back in time. It's just like a time capsule. When many touring cars back then needed several different piggyback devices to extract the most power out of their engine. With today's tuning solutions, it's much simpler to do that. So, other mods included things like the HKS Hyperdamper Max 2 shock setup, so coilover setup, which is very expensive, and the HKS purple sway bars. Actually, there were only 2 sets of the purple sway bars in the US at that time. Very rare stuff. Chris's RX-7 also had HKS's titanium and carbon fiber exhaust system. Again, a very rare part. Inside the car was a bevy of HKS gauges for things like boost, water temperature, EGT, and so forth and so on. For wheels, Chris opted for a set of the then brand new Volk Racing GTCs, and his car was among the first cars in the country to get a set of those wheels. In case you're wondering, the wheels measured 18 by 8 up front and 18 by 10 in the rear. Tires were the then very popular Toyo T1S Proxys 235/50/18 in front and 265/35/18 in the back. One could argue that this build was a dream build. It featured the newest and very best parts the tuner marker had to offer for this car back then. And so after all these modifications were done, he proceeded to drive the car daily, just like he always did, until the day the car got stolen. For those wondering about the timeline, let me put it into perspective for you. The first movie was released in June of 2001. His car was stolen 8 months later, almost to the day. And of course, the saddest part of this story is that Chris had a full Night Sports wide body kit sitting in the paint shop waiting for the car to come in, and the shop was supposed to get the car a week later, February 2002, just days after the car got stolen. As I said a moment ago, the car was recovered a few days later, but it was stripped. It was stripped of most of its parts. And it was a sad, sad thing for him. If this car had never been recovered, the insurance company, I'm told, would have only paid him out on the value of the car and not for the extra parts on the car. Think about that. What was left of the strip car was sold off. The chassis was actually sold to a racer, so that was gone. And here's the lesson we can learn from all of this. If you have a bunch of modifications on your car and you live in the United States, which 97% of my viewers do, then you need to itemize a list of your parts, gather the receipts, put them in a file, and then call your insurance company to see about doing something called a guaranteed value on your policy, which is sometimes also called an agreed value policy. It's very important you do this. If you don't declare these parts to your insurance company, you might not get a nickel for those parts if your car gets totaled or gets stolen. I went through this personally with my Mustang. In 1998, my modified Mustang was stolen just 3 days before the new owner was supposed to pick up the car. The buyer had agreed to buy the car for $23,000. Fortunately, I had receipts but no extra insurance. I had about $32,000 in receipts for parts and work to the car, not including the actual value of the car. I settled on a total payout from the insurance company of $28,000, and I was very lucky to get that. In some countries, you have to declare to your insurance every single part you install on your car. Why? Because if you modify your car to go faster, your insurance will cost you more. In England, if you modify your car to look faster, insurance companies think that thieves will be more attracted to your car and you're going to have to pay higher insurance premiums. For example, look at this ridiculous chart. It shows how much your insurance will go up if you have any of these modifications. Good God, if you had a turbo or a supercharger added to your car, your insurance goes up 132%. Add an air filter, add 25% to your car insurance bill. Hood vents, add 6%, what? Stripes or badges, add 9%, craziness. This is allowed because UK law specifies that if your car has been modified, you must declare the changes to your insurer, even if you didn't make the changes yourself, and if you don't, your insurance policy is null and void. Why the Brits continue to vote for politicians who are so uptight is absolutely beyond my comprehension. The UK, in fact, is screwed in many ways. First, the country is more than 1,000 years old, and as such, about 40% of homes were built without garages, so these cars have to park on the street. But I digress. If having one Fast and Furious car stolen is heartbreaking, how would you feel about a Paul Walker Skyline being stolen? Well, it actually happened. Back in May of 2009, one of the blue Skyline GTTs used in Fast and Furious 4 was allegedly stolen from Milano Motorsports in Los Angeles, California. The car belonged to a guy by the name Chris Gregorian, who uses the alias Chris Milano. Don't know why, but something's going on there. Allegedly, thieves cut a hole in a metal wall right next to where the car was parked in the shop, which seems like a remarkable coincidence, but okay. And it was taken within 10 minutes. As I recall though, a video surfaced of the actual theft. It didn't seem to help though, as the car was gone, and that seemed like the end of that story. But the car magically reappeared 14 months later on 6speedonline.com, a popular automotive forum back then. Allegedly, the car had been recovered completely intact, and it was being offered for sale for $75,000. The timing was interesting given that this was the time period when the feds were seizing GTRs and back at the same time of the Kaizo difficulties, if you remember that. It was also during the stock market troubles and the housing market crash back in 2009. Now, a suspicious mind would surmise that maybe there was a little bit more to the story, but without any new stories emerging in the last 12 years about the car, we can only assume that the car still exists and that there wasn't any funny business going on in the background. Okay, right? The bottom line is that most stolen cars are not recovered. Having the right insurance coverage can help protect your investment. While the right insurance can help to compensate you for your loss, a LoJack system has a 90% recovery rate. In my opinion, it's far better to get your car back before it's been stripped for parts, but that's just me. So let these stories about how you insure and protect your car serve as cautionary tales. Gather your receipts and get on the phone to your insurance guide and protect what's rightfully yours. That's it for this time, everybody. We'll see you next time. And as always, please support my sponsors.